Would you return a billionaire's wallet if you were starving? He was a billionaire. His face on magazines. His name on skyscrapers. She was just a poor tricycle rider fighting every day to survive. But one rainy evening, the billionaire was stranded in the storm. Grace stopped to help. And when he stepped out, he left something behind. A wallet, stuffed with cash. What she did next shocked everyone. This is the story of Grace. In the heart of Lagos, a city that never slept, never waited, and never cared. A yellow tricycle roared to life before the first rooster crowed. Its engine coughed like an old man. Its seat had a tear stitched together with thread. And behind its dusty handlebars sat a young woman named Grace. She was 26, slender, strong, and far older than her years. Not in age, but in experience. Before the sun could even stretch its arms, Grace had swept the compound, helped her asthmatic mother take her early morning medicine, packed a nylon bag with 2 gala rolls, and placed a sachet of water in her brother Chuka's school bag. "Go straight to school," she told him gently, tucking his shirt into his trousers. "Don't follow the other boys, and tell your teacher I'll pay the lesson fee next week." Chuka nodded, and Grace smiled. A tired smile, but still one of love. She stepped out, wrapped her scarf tighter around her hair, and wiped the dust off her tricycle's side mirror. It wasn't much, but it was hers, bought with savings from years of washing clothes and selling boiled eggs on the roadside. People in the neighborhood called her Driver Girl. Some laughed when they said it, others said it with admiration, but Grace never answered to any of it. She wasn't driving to make a statement. She was driving to survive. Her father had died 3 years ago in a market fire. Since then, she had carried the weight of her family like cement on her back, quietly, daily, with no complaint. As she adjusted her worn slippers and climbed into the tricycle, she whispered a short prayer. "Lord, no accidents, no police, Wahala. Just let me make enough for food and medicine." And with that, she joined the sea of noise and smoke, bouncing through potholes, dodging impatient bus drivers and shouting conductors. Another day had begun. She didn't know that not far away. A man with power, wealth, and everything the world chased was about to lose something important, and only Grace, the girl they called Driver Girl, would be the one to find it. His name was Desmond James. If you lived in the city, you had seen his face. On the cover of Forbes Africa, on real estate billboards, in newspaper columns about young billionaires to watch. He had built luxury apartments that touched the sky. He had bought land others only dreamed of. And at just 33, he had become a man everyone wanted something from. But Desmond was tired. He sat alone that morning in his mansion's rooftop lounge, dressed in a plain white t-shirt and jeans, sipping water with no appetite. The media called him Africa's quiet lion. But inside, he felt like a man drowning quietly in a gold-filled ocean. He had everything, yet nothing. Fake friendships. Business partners who smiled with knives behind their backs. Women who claimed they loved him. But only if the champagne flowed. He missed silence. Realness. Someone who wouldn't look at him and see only money. His mother, now late, had raised him to value dignity over display. "Don't be impressed by loud voices," she used to say. "Look for the one who gives quietly, helps without shouting, and walks humbly." That morning, Desmond stood up and stretched. He looked out at the city skyline from his window and sighed. "I need air." He called his assistant and said, "Cancel my meetings today. I'm going out alone. No driver." "Sir, are you sure?" "I'm sure." He grabbed his black SUV keys, threw on a baseball cap, and drove himself out of the estate. No escort, no convoy. Just a billionaire in disguise, hoping to feel normal again. He planned to visit one of his lesser-known properties, check the building progress, maybe stop by a local store and grab a drink. He didn't need attention today. He needed quiet. But life had other plans. Just 30 minutes into his journey, on a narrow road filled with cracks and puddles, his car gave a sharp jolt. Then came the dashboard light. Then came the stutter. And finally, silence. The SUV rolled to a dead stop. Desmond frowned. Tried to restart it. Nothing. He checked his phone. Battery, 3%. And just like that, the mighty man was stranded. Desmond stepped out of the SUV slowly. The sky above was darkening, heavy clouds swirling like they were waiting to punish someone. He looked down the quiet road. No shops, no pedestrians. Only the occasional vehicle speeding past, too fast to notice him waving. He opened the bonnet and stared at the engine like a man hoping for a miracle. Nothing. His phone buzzed weakly in his hand. A message trying to come through. And then the screen went black. Dead! Desmond sighed. He tried flagging cars. One sped past, splashing water across his jeans. Another slowed, then zoomed off. A billionaire. Stranded. Phone off. No one to call. He leaned against the car door and looked up as the first drop of rain hit his cheek. Just one. Then two. Then 100. Pounding down like tiny slaps from the sky. He stepped back into the vehicle, but it was already too late. His shirt was wet. His cap soaked through. He watched as the few cars that did pass by slowed down, stared at him, and kept going. So this is how it feels to be invisible, he muttered. He thought of his mother, of how she used to say, "You'll know who truly sees you when you have nothing to offer." At that moment, no working phone, no assistant, no driver, no bodyguard, just him and the rain. Then from the distance he heard it. A soft hum, a sputtering engine, a small vehicle slowing down on the other side of the road. Desmond sat up, heart suddenly alert. It was a tricycle, a battered, rain-spattered yellow tricycle. It crossed the puddle-filled road, slowed down beside him, and stopped. The door flap opened. A young woman leaned slightly out. Her scarf was soaked, her brows furrowed in concern. And then she spoke. "Sir, are you okay?" Just 3 words. Kind, calm, no fear, no demand. Desmond blinked as if she wasn't real. She tilted her head. "Do you want to get in? The rain will not have mercy on you." He hesitated for a moment, and then he stepped in. Desmond slid into the back seat of the tricycle. It was cramped. The seat squeaked. Water dripped from his cap onto the floor, but, strangely, he felt safe. The young woman in front adjusted the mirror slightly and glanced at him. "You're not saying anything," she said gently. "I hope you're okay." He nodded. "Just a bad day," she said nothing more. Just shifted the gear and eased the tricycle back into the road, weaving carefully around potholes like she had memorized every bump. Rain tapped on the plastic windows. Cars zoomed by in blurs of noise. But inside that little tricycle, the world felt far away. Desmond watched her quietly. Her back was straight, her hands firm on the handles. Her scarf clung to her neck from the rain, and her shirt stuck to her skin, soaked through. Yet she looked calm, focused, resilient, no questions. She just drove. He leaned slightly forward. "What's your name?" She glanced in the mirror. "Grace." He smiled faintly. "That's fitting. What about you?" she asked. He paused. He could have said Desmond James, real estate mogul, media darling, Forbes featured CEO. But instead he replied, "Just Desmond." She nodded. "Okay, Desmond. Where are you going?" He gave her the estate name. She let out a low whistle under her breath. "That's quite far," she said. "But no problem. I'll take you." "Thank you," he said. That was all. No questions about why he was stranded. No probing curiosity. Just service. Halfway through the ride, she reached into a plastic bag by her side and pulled out a spare headscarf. She wiped her own face, then offered it to him. "Your face is dripping like a tap," she said with a tiny smile. Desmond hesitated, then took it. And in that moment something happened. Something quiet, but powerful. A billionaire accepted a cloth from a tricycle rider in the middle of a Lagos storm and felt seen for the first time in years. When they reached the estate gate, she pulled over and cut the engine. "Don't worry," she said softly. "This one is on me." Desmond looked at her, searching for the reason in her eyes. "Why?" he asked. She gave the smallest shrug, Rain still clinging to her scarf. Because sometimes people just need help. And that was it. No name, no request for money, no hint that she knew or cared who he was. Just a quiet act of kindness from a stranger named Grace. Then the sound of her tricycle fading into the rain. Grace didn't look back as she drove away. Her soaked scarf flapped against the wind. Her hands trembled slightly from the cold. But her heart was steady. She didn't know who the man was, only that he had needed help. And she had done what her mother would have done. Help, then go. Her mother always said, if you ask for thanks, it's no longer kindness. She found a quiet street corner, pulled over under a leaking zinc awning, and sat silently in her tricycle. For a moment she closed her eyes. Rain still fell, a little softer now. She thought of Chuka. He would be home by now, waiting for bread or biscuits. And Mama's cough. It had gotten worse. The pharmacy said they wouldn't give any more medicine on credit. She reached into her bag, took out a sachet of pure water, and drank it slowly. It was all she had had since morning. Her phone buzzed once. A text from Temmie. Grace, are you still driving in this rain? Come home. You'll get sick. Grace smiled faintly and replied, soon. She was about to start the tricycle again when she noticed something on the seat beside her. A black leather wallet. Her eyes narrowed. She hadn't picked anyone else up since she dropped Desmond at the estate gate. She reached for it with careful fingers. The leather was smooth, expensive. When she opened it, her breath caught. Foreign notes, crisp ones, ID cards, bank cards, a folded business card with a name embossed in gold foil. Her mouth opened slightly. Desmond James. She blinked. Her heart thudded. The rain outside blurred the windows like tears. Slowly she placed the wallet on her lap. So, the man she carried in her tricycle, was that Desmond James? She stared at the foreign currency again. She had never held this much money before. She looked toward the road. No one was near. No one saw. No one would know. The wallet could fix her mother's medicine, her brother's school fees, the unpaid rent. Her hands trembled. Not from cold, but from conflict. She looked at the business card again. Desmond James, CEO, James Holdings. Then she heard her mother's voice in her head. When you're tested, Grace, pass. Even when no one's watching, especially then. She exhaled slowly. The rain had started again. So had her test. The rain poured harder, drumming against the roof of the tricycle as Grace stared at the wallet, like it might bite her. Her stomach growled. Her mother's medicine was finished. Her landlord had knocked twice that week. Chuka's schoolteacher had sent a note home about unpaid fees. And yet, here in her lap sat a small leather wallet that could solve everything. Temmie, her closest friend, arrived a few minutes later under an umbrella, soaked and panting. Grace! She called out. Don't you listen? The rain is pouring on you and you're still parked here like a statue. Grace didn't reply. Temmie stepped closer and saw the wallet. She gasped. Ah, who left this here? Grace whispered. The man I carried earlier. He dropped it by mistake. Temmie picked it up and flipped through it. When she saw the money, she froze. Grace, she said slowly. Do you see what I'm seeing? Grace nodded quietly. Temmie slid into the seat beside her in the tricycle, still speechless. After a long pause, she said softly, You could pay your rent. You could buy all of Mama's medicine. You could even replace this old tricycle with a new one. Grace's eyes turned away. But it's not mine, Temmie sighed in frustration. And who would know? Do you think Desmond James would even remember you? Men like that lose wallets every week. This one, maybe God meant for you to have it. Grace was quiet for a long time. Then she reached forward and gently took the wallet back from Temmie's hands. I'm not a thief, she said firmly. Not today, not ever. Temmie looked at her, brows furrowed. So, what are you going to do now? Grace gazed out at the road, the rain still dancing across the puddles. I'll return it. Return it? To who? Grace held up the business card. To him. Temmie let out a sharp breath, shaking her head. You really do love to suffer. Grace smiled faintly. No, I love peace. She slipped the wallet into a small black nylon bag, tied it securely, and tucked it under the tricycle's seat. Tomorrow morning I'll go to his office, she said firmly. Tammy scoffed. They won't even let you pass the gate. Grace met her gaze, her eyes calm and steady. Then I'll wait outside. And with that she started the tricycle again and drove into the night, soaked, tired, but at peace. Her hands may have been poor, but her heart, rich beyond words. That night, Grace couldn't sleep. The power was out. The fan sat still in the corner, and the small rechargeable lamp flickered as if it, too, was tired of trying. Her mother coughed softly in the darkness. Chuka shifted in his sleep, murmuring something about pencils and school shoes. And Grace? She lay flat on the thin mattress, staring at the ceiling like it held the answers to her war. The wallet was under her pillow, not because she planned to take it, but because she needed to remember it was real. Every time she closed her eyes, the same thoughts circled her mind like vultures. Just take one note. No one would know. What if Desmond doesn't even remember you? Your mother needs medicine. You need a new tire for your tricycle. You need. Her chest tightened. Tears stung her eyes. Not because she wanted to steal, but because she hated how close she was to considering it. She turned her face into the pillow and whispered, God, I don't want to fail this test. Please help me. Her mother's voice echoed softly in her memory. It's not hard to be honest when you have nothing to lose. True integrity is when you have every reason to take, but you still choose to return. Just then, the rain returned, soft, rhythmic, as though the sky itself was praying with her. She reached under her pillow, brought out the wallet, and held it in her lap. She opened it one more time. The foreign currency stared back at her. Clean, tempting, heavy. She removed Desmond's business card and stared at the number. She had no airtime, no battery. But she had something better. Conviction. By morning, her decision was made. She would go. She would return it. And if they laughed at her, let them. If security chased her away, she would wait. If she never saw Desmond again, at least her soul would remain whole. Grace stood up, tied her scarf tightly, and stepped into the rising sun. She had nothing, but her spirit, untouched. The next morning, just after 9 a.m., Grace parked her tricycle in front of a tall glass building in the heart of the city. The security gate gleamed silver. The sign at the top read, James Holdings Headquarters. Men in suits walked in and out. Clean shoes. Briefcases. Perfume? Grace stepped out in her faded jeans, rubber slippers, and the same scarf from yesterday, now neatly tied. In her hand was the nylon bag with the wallet. She took a breath and walked toward the front gate. Hey, madam! A security man barked. Where do you think you're going? Grace stopped. Good morning. I came to return. Do you have any business here? He cut in, his eyes narrowing. No, sir, but Then turn around. This place isn't for people like you. A second guard stepped forward, younger, wearing sunglasses and a smirk. So you're here to look for a job? In those slippers? People passing by began to stare. Some chuckled. One woman whispered, She must be here to submit her CV. Grace took a step closer. Please, I found something, and I want to return it to someone who works here. The older guard scoffed. Who? She held up the card. His name is Desmond. I think he dropped this. The moment she said the name, both guards straightened slightly. You say Desmond? As in, Mr. James? The younger one asked, doubtful. Yes. The older one snatched the bag from her hand. Let me see. He opened the nylon, then the wallet. His eyes widened. He turned to his colleague, then back to Grace. And you found this? And you're returning it? She nodded. It's not mine. He looked at her like she was a puzzle. Wait here. He disappeared into the building. Minutes passed. Grace stood still, heart pounding. A small crowd gathered briefly, curious. Just when she began to feel embarrassed, the glass doors opened, and out walked Desmond. He stopped when he saw her. Their eyes met, and for a moment everything around them blurred. The whispers, the laughter. He stepped forward, slow but certain. Grace held out the wallet. "You left this in my tricycle," she said. He took it, opened it, and checked inside. Everything was still there. Every note, every card. Nothing missing. He looked at her, eyes wide in surprise. "Why did you come back?" he asked. She gave a small smile. "Because it was the right thing to do." For a long moment, Desmond just stood there, staring at the woman who had handed him back a wallet that could have changed her life, and never even touched a kobo. Grace stood quietly, her fingers now laced behind her back. She wasn't shaking, though her clothes were simple, and her face carried the look of someone who hadn't slept much. He looked down at the wallet again, then back at her. "Do you know what this means?" he asked softly. Grace shrugged. "It means someone forgot something, and I returned it." Desmond chuckled under his breath, not out of humor, but out of disbelief. He glanced at the guards, who were now pretending to be busy. "Come inside," he said. She hesitated. "Sir, I don't want to cause trouble." "You're not," he said. "You're solving it." He led her past the marble floors, through the glass doors, into a reception filled with the scent of lemon polish and wealth. Eyes turned. Some staff whispered, but Desmond said nothing. Grace kept her head down, walking like someone used to being overlooked. Inside his office, he offered her a seat. She perched lightly on the edge, legs together, hands folded. He opened the wallet again. Cash, untouched. Cards, untouched. Even the tiny folded receipt he had stuffed in was still there. "You didn't take a thing," he said again. "I don't steal," Grace said, her voice quiet but firm. "My mother taught me better." Desmond leaned back, watching her like he was trying to solve a mystery. He reached into a drawer and brought out a bundle of notes. She shook her head immediately. "Please, sir, I didn't do it for money." "It's not a bribe," he said. "It's gratitude." "I can't accept it," she said again. "If I take this, it will feel like the honesty was for sale." That silenced him. He looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time in a very long time, Desmond James saw someone who couldn't be bought. He smiled slowly, then picked up a pen and scribbled on a notepad. "This is my number," he said, tearing the page and folding it carefully. "If you ever need anything, call me." Grace took the paper and nodded. "Thank you, sir." "No," Desmond said quietly. "Thank you." As she stood to leave, Desmond walked her to the door himself. His staff watched, surprised. When she stepped into the sun, her yellow tricycle still waited outside. Desmond remained at the glass window watching her drive away, not just because she returned his wallet, but because she had just returned something far more valuable, his faith in people. That evening, Desmond sat in his living room, freshly showered, no TV on, just silence, and his phone beside him. He picked up the folded piece of paper on the coffee table. Grace's number, written in her own careful handwriting. He smiled at it. She had left just a few hours ago, yet her voice still lingered in his mind. That calm, simple voice that said, "If I take this, it will feel like the honesty was for sale." He leaned back and picked up his phone. Then he paused. "No," he muttered. "Let her call first, if she wants to." He placed the phone back down and tried to distract himself with emails. Then a documentary, then pacing. But as night fell, he found himself checking the phone again, and again. Nothing. No missed call. No message. By 10:30 p.m., he gave in. He dialed the number himself. Switched off. He frowned. Maybe her battery was low? He waited 15 minutes. Tried again. Still off. He tried one last time just before midnight. Same thing. He stared at the phone, brows furrowed. Then he whispered to himself, "She probably thinks I've forgotten her already." He didn't sleep much that night. Across town, Grace was sitting on the floor of her room, her back against the wall. Her phone lay in front of her. The screen cracked, battery dead, charging port broken. It hadn't turned on in 2 days. She had tried everything. The charger, wiggling the wire, squeezing the sides. Nothing. She placed her head in her hands. "Just once," she whispered. Just once let something work when I need it to. She didn't care about a reward. She just wanted to thank him, to let him know she wasn't ungrateful, and that she was okay. The paper with his number was still safe in her wallet. She planned to fix the phone, soon, somehow. But life was already piling up again. Her mother's chest was tight again. Chuka had a fever. Her tricycle had developed a rattling sound in the engine. And airtime? That was a luxury. She held the phone in both hands, forehead against her knees. "I'll call him," she whispered to herself. "I will." She didn't know that every hour she delayed, Desmond's hope grew quieter, and his heart heavier. 2 weeks passed. Desmond tried to move on. Board meetings, site inspections, strategy calls. He smiled when expected, signed documents when required. But his mind kept returning to that rain-soaked girl with the firm eyes and soft voice. Grace. He had stopped trying her number after the 5th day. It remained off. No message, no call, nothing. He even sent his assistant to check in with building security. Maybe they had her address. Maybe she came again. They hadn't seen her. It's fine. He lied to himself. She probably forgot. She probably doesn't want anything more. But a small part of him whispered, what if something happened to her? Still, life went on. On a quiet Saturday morning, Desmond's company hosted a free community outreach program in one of the city's low-income areas. It was something he sponsored every quarter. Free health checks, food packs, school supplies for children. He arrived quietly. No entourage. Dressed simply in a short-sleeved shirt and khaki trousers. He moved through the crowd, shook hands with volunteers, took pictures with local children. Then he saw her. She was by the water station, helping an elderly woman fill a bottle. Her scarf was the same. Her movements, graceful, deliberate, focused. Grace. For a second, Desmond froze. Was it her? He stepped forward slowly. She turned slightly, and their eyes met. Her hand paused. The water bottle overflowed. Desmond! She whispered under her breath. She didn't expect to see him. Not here. Not today. She stepped back nervously, as if unsure if he would remember her. But he walked straight toward her. When he reached her, he said softly, I thought you disappeared. She nodded once. I tried to call my phone. She trailed off, embarrassed. I figured, he said gently. But I kept hoping. She looked down. I'm sorry. He smiled faintly. Don't be. You just gave me another reason to keep showing up. They stood there. 2 people in the middle of a noisy outreach, surrounded by hundreds, yet somehow alone in a quiet space that belonged only to them. He reached into his pocket and brought out a phone. Still have my number? He asked. She shook her head. I kept the paper, but it got wet in the rain. He unlocked the phone and handed it to her. Here, type yours. She hesitated. Then slowly she typed the digits into his phone. He gave her a missed call right away. Her small replacement phone vibrated in her pocket. She smiled. So did he. They said nothing more, but both knew that something had just restarted. The next day, Grace stood outside a tall building once again. Only this time she had been invited. Desmond had called that evening after the outreach. His voice had been calm, careful, respectful. I'd like to see you again, he had said. I have something to offer, but I want you to hear me out before you say no. Now here she was, not as a desperate visitor with a plastic bag, but as Grace, the woman who didn't take what wasn't hers, and unknowingly left a billionaire searching. She wore her cleanest blouse and a long skirt. Her shoes were slightly worn but polished. Her scarf was pressed flat. Her hands shook slightly, but her shoulders were square. Inside, Desmond waited in a private meeting room, seated by the window. When she stepped in, he stood. No assistant, no suits, just him. Thank you for coming, he said, guiding her to a seat. She sat, folding her hands in her lap. I've been thinking a lot about you, Desmond began. Not just the day you returned my wallet, but who you are. Grace said nothing. She wasn't used to men talking like this. Not to her, he continued. You work hard. You're disciplined. You didn't take from me even when you had every reason to. That tells me everything I need to know." He paused. "I want you to work with me." Her eyes widened. "Sir, I'm starting a new division," he explained. "A transport initiative for local women in underdeveloped communities. Clean, safe, reliable. I need someone on the ground, someone who understands the hustle, someone I can trust." Grace blinked. "Me?" He smiled. "You." She looked away for a moment, her heart pounding. "No one's ever offered me anything like this before," she whispered. Desmond leaned forward. "And no one else returned a billionaire's wallet without taking a single note." She laughed quietly, the first time he'd heard her laugh. "But I still want to drive my tricycle," she added. "At least, for now." Desmond nodded, amused. "You're allowed. It's part of your charm." They both smiled, and in that moment a decision had been made, not just about a job, but about the start of something deeper, something steady, quiet, real, just like Grace. 1 year later, so much had changed since that rainy day. Grace was now project lead of Desmond's Safe Ride for Women initiative. She managed a growing team, coordinated routes, and trained dozens of other young women from struggling communities. Her mother's health had improved, thanks to private care arranged by the company. Chuka was in a good school. He now spoke fluent English and proudly told his classmates, "My sister is a boss." And Desmond never left. He didn't rush her. He didn't flash money or pressure her with status. He walked beside her, waited, watched her grow. Somewhere between planning meetings, shared meals, and evening calls, their quiet friendship had turned into something deeper. And today, that unspoken feeling was about to be heard. "Where are we going?" Grace asked as Desmond drove her through the city in his car. He smiled. "You'll see." They left the busy streets of Lagos behind and entered a quieter part of town. Soon they pulled up at a small garden restaurant by the water, the kind with soft lights, gentle music, and the smell of grilled fish in the air. Desmond led her to a table under a tree hung with fairy lights. The evening breeze carried the scent of flowers. Lanterns glowed softly on every table. They ordered food, but Desmond barely touched his plate. He kept looking at her, smiling like he knew something she didn't. After the meal, he stood and held out his hand. "Come." She followed him to a spot near the water's edge, where the city lights reflected in gentle ripples. "I never forgot the first day we met," he said. "You stopped for me in the rain when you didn't know who I was. You gave me peace when I had nothing else. You didn't ask for anything in return. You just gave." Grace looked down, her cheeks warm. Desmond reached into his pocket and brought out a small velvet box. He opened it to reveal a simple, elegant ring. "Grace," he said softly, "would you let me walk through life with you? Not as a billionaire and a tricycle rider, but as two people who chose kindness first." Her eyes filled with tears. She nodded, covering her mouth with her trembling hand. "Yes," she whispered, "1,000 times yes." Desmond slipped the ring onto her finger. Around them, the staff and a few diners who had been watching clapped softly. In that moment, the days of hunger, worn shoes, and silent prayers faded. All that remained was the warmth between them, the kind no wealth could buy. She had given him shelter in a storm, never knowing that she would find her own calm in his presence. In a city where wealth shouted and honesty was a whisper, one woman's quiet act of kindness had rewritten a billionaire's story. And in the heart of Lagos, under the glow of soft lights and the sound of gentle waves, two souls chose to walk through life together. Forever. Sometimes the smallest acts change the biggest lives. They don't come wrapped in riches. They come in the quiet of a storm, from a stranger who simply chooses to help. If Grace's story touched your heart, tell us in the comments. Where in the world are you watching from? And don't forget to subscribe to Folk Tales by Olivia for more emotional, dramatic, and unforgettable stories. Until next time, stay kind, stay hopeful, and keep watching.